Test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Belmore. I'll give you a little bit of volume now. Lovely build-up play here by Marconi. It's Sekenis, and it's tipped over the bar. Lovely save there by Curto. Here come Sydney Olympic. Yeah, sweet. Good afternoon and welcome to Belmore, the site of many famous nights and afternoons in Sydney Olympics' proud history. But in 90 minutes' time, it could play host to one of their darkest days. The equation is simple. Sydney Olympic must win this afternoon, otherwise they are relegated. Standing in their way, a familiar foe, two Australian Championship inaugural members, but they couldn't be worlds apart. Marconi Stallions looking to keep their very, very faint hopes at a premiership alive. At the minimum, they'll be looking to keep their top two hopes alive. And of course, their manager, last name, very famous in these circles, Peter Sekenis, manager of Sydney Olympic during their famous double, which they won here 15 years ago, defeating Sydney United in front of more than 10,000 people. Fast forward 15 years and a season that has seen them slip towards the bottom. Just 6 wins, and with St George FC rattling off back-to-back wins, it is now Harry Houdini great escape time for this great, proud Australian football club. They sit 5 points behind St George FC, so of course they could win their 2 remaining games and still be relegated. But this afternoon, the focus is solely on 3 points, and then they'll be hoping for some final day magic. Belmore has seen some famous afternoons, some famous wins. Are we about to see a dark chapter in the history of this proud Australian football club? Sydney Olympic must win. Marconi get us underway, going from right to left. In 90 minutes' time, we could see another great New South Wales football club dropped to League One, but relegation does not discriminate. History and producing Socceroos and success does not make you immune from the horrors of relegation. Just ask Bonnyrigg, just ask Parramatta. And of course, we've seen famous football clubs all over Australia get relegated. Most recently, the Melbourne Knights, who went straight back up as well. Marconi, of course, were relegated in 2017. In 2018 is where Peter Sekenis took over, got them straight back up, won a Waratah Cup the following year. Him and the great Peter Flea, Peter Paputis, was his assistant here 15 years ago when they won the double. And those two have seen and done it all in the NPL space. Over 300 games at Marconi, a Waratah Cup, promotion, of course, championship 2 years ago, and runners-up in the inaugural Australian Championship, which is where Sydney Olympic will play in a couple months' time. But it will feel very, very strange seeing a team that has just been relegated participate in that competition as Marconi go long. And here is Seth Clark. Get a chance to run through quickly the lineups for you today on this day where a win is a must. Plenty of talent in this Sydney Olympic lineup, namely in goals. Number 20, Philip Curto. Number 4 is Josh Hong. Number 7 is Seth Clark. Number 8 is Khan Nizam. Number 10 is Panos Armenakis as they go long, and they might get on the end of this one. It's Nizam on the end of it. Just they hold the ball up slightly as they wait for players in blue jerseys to get into the box. Number 12 is Zach Zoricic. The whistle goes in favour of Sydney Olympic, so an early chance for the hosts. Pardon, I thought that was a whistle for a foul. It was just the throw, but still, nevertheless, in a decent position here. And decent ball too. A bit of room there on the edge of the box, and it's snuffed out quickly there by Franco Meyer, who goes long. Number 14 for Sydney Olympic is Jason Drasoglovic. 16 is Bailey Callahan. Number 19 is Peter Politis. Adam Bulgaria is in 21, playing the team that he started the season playing for before making the mid-season switch. And rounding out the 11 is the very exciting youngster, number 23, Sebastian Lukucha. beg your pardon, Sebastian Kokucha. I was just distracted momentarily because I've just seen some very famous fans walk in the stables. Active support of Marconi. One of them's draped in a beautiful Italian flag. They are always a highlight whenever you do a Marconi game. They always travel. Sometimes they get sauced up as well, so they're great for entertainment value. Let's run through that Marconi lineup. In goals is Joel Wade once again. Tyrone Burney is in number 2. Cameron Windus scored the winner last week. He wears number 3 as Marconi try to go on the attack. Chance here for Sydney Olympic to break. Zoricic going to take on Burney, and Tyrone Burney, one of the best right backs in this competition, showing why. Recovers well. I'll resume that lineup for you. Number 4 is a returning Anton Mlinaric. That ball's allowed to bounce, and it's pounced on by Damien Sekenis, whose touch was just a little bit too heavy, and it allowed Curto to pounce on it. But a warning sign there for Sydney Olympic and their backline. George Daniel is in number 5. I will eventually get through this Marconi lineup. Uncle Meyer is in 7. James Bayliss is in 8. The man who just had the first chance, we'll call it that, although he didn't manage to get a shot on goal. Damien Sekenis is in 9. The captain is Marko Jasic in 10. Former Sydney Olympic man Jack Armstrong is in 14. And Quinton Blair rounds out the 11. Sydney Olympic happy to just send that one away. Decent little crowd here. They're all, of course, on the camera side, but I knew that there was a decent crowd because I couldn't get a park. Drove in today. Usually get a park right out front of where the Big Bulldogs logo is, but not today. I'm feeling these fans, and there'll be plenty of you guys watching on the YouTube stream, very anxious. Last night's result needed Blacktown to do Sydney Olympic a favour. They had all the opportunities to. Of course, St George went up 1-0, but then were reduced to 10 after 15 minutes. But credit to St George, they held on for 75 minutes to hold on to a precious 1-0 win, and it makes it back-to-back wins for them and opens the gap between themselves and Sydney Olympic to 5 points. Olympic with 2 games to go, of course. Whoever finishes in 15th will still have to play the promotion relegation playoff against, I think we can say it now, they've got a plus 9 goal difference and 3 points ahead, the Northern Tigers. That would be insane if that was overturned. Of course, the League One teams have a very good record. They are unbeaten in that promotion relegation playoff. The Olympic looked to go long, and it's overhit and picked up by Joel Wade. Great first season in Marconi blue for him, although he's wearing a fluorescent yellow goalkeeper's kit. Marconi, Peter Sekenis trademark. Once again, league best defence. Bit of a nervy moment there at the back, so Josh Hong happy to just send that one towards the construction here as Belmore gets a bit of an overdue facelift. Couple great suburban grounds getting renovated, Leichhardt Oval as well. Go in the direction of Daniel. It's cut off by Politis, and I have a feeling that may have taken a touch off his former teammate, and it did. Marconi, an issue last season for them. Always great defensively, but the goals dried up. They lost James Temolkovsky, who, after the season he had in 24, is almost irreplaceable, but the goals have picked back up, and namely from their star striker. Sydney Olympic, on the other hand, they won't care where they get the goals from. They just need something. They led last week by a 0-0 and were pegged back as Khan Nizam. You look at the names across this 11. Very few were there last season. Big clean out after that Australian Championship campaign. Of course, Ali Ogla, was a loan signing. It was fantastic, winning the Golden Boot. Minaric looked like he was going to shepherd that, but needed to get a touch on it instead and bring his goalkeeper into play. Sekenis hits the ground. He thought he was fouled. Clark, well won by Blair, and now a chance for Marconi to break. Blair tries to get around Hong, who almost rugby league tackles him. That's a tackle you'd see maybe from their neighbours, the Canterbury Bulldogs. Lions from the rugby league still very visible, which for a commentator is a blessing and a curse. It's not very aesthetically pleasing, but it does help me determine the range of free kicks like this one. Right on that 30-metre line. No 10 qual for Marconi today. He's been handy. Another ex-Sydney Olympic Marconi man. Going to be Franco Meyer to take it. Loops it in. Header away. Only as far as Blair. They tried to get the 1-2. Bayless gets on the end of it, and it's easy pickings for Philip Curto, who's had a busy start to life in the NPL. At one stage was one of the premier goalkeepers when he was at the MacArthur Bulls. And that tackle there drew the applause of the stables, who've made their way to the other end. Probably a smart idea, because there's a good contingent of Sydney Olympic fans here. Tell you what, it's a cliche, but you can feel the tension. As I mentioned, because of last night's result, Espanos Amanakis is hounded by two Marconi players and then tried to get it back off Kukuchka, who's been one of the rare bright points for Sydney Olympic this season. Melito, their manager, came over mid-season, saw an initial fortnight turn of form. They picked up a win on Anzac Day here against UNSW. It was another youngster, Yorios Lucas, who got the winner then. They beat Marconi in the cup as well. But the wins have been very few and far between. They go in the direction of Zoricic. It's been a good little battle early between himself and Tyrone Burney. And I mentioned that St. George FC winning back-to-back games has almost relegated Sydney Olympic. Back-to-back wins is something Olympic haven't done in this competition this season. And there's lots of reasons you can point to this decline, of course. Some very well publicised issues going on behind the scenes that you can Google. If you know, you know. So hard to get any type of cohesion when, because of some of those issues, players have to leave. And you just look at the host of signings that they made, and then the host of mid-season signings. So hard to get cohesion and chemistry with one or two mid-season signings, let alone the multiple that we see playing today. And they've tried their best, and they've also been their own worst enemy at times. Last week, he led 1-0 at half-time against Sydney United. Really should have put that game to bed. And unfortunately, Belmore has been the host of a couple collapses for them this season. I think very, very early on in the season. I think back to one game in particular. It was round 3. I'm going to pause this story for a second because here comes Minaric bursting free, and Sekenis loses his feet momentarily, and that allowed Olympic to pounce and a chance to break. Here's Amanakis, has options right and left, goes to Kukuchka, who holds the ball up. He has Nizam in the box waiting for a cross. He then gets it onto his left foot, plays it back to Amanakis, and Marconi have gotten everyone back there except Damien Sekenis. Amanakis plays it out wide. The break that looked like it was on has just fizzled out a little bit, but here they come again, and a little pop shot, and it had Joel Wade there, just gave him something to think about. It's Bailey Callahan with the shot there, and What a start that would have been. Maybe he'll take something like that just to ignite something. The Great Escape. Just think of any type of metaphor, football term you could think of. Oh, they need all of that and a little bit more. They do have Michael Arambasic back on the bench today. I mentioned that goal scoring has been an issue for them, as has conceding goals as well. They've conceded the league most. 60 goals conceded in 28 games. Just 6 wins all season. 2 of those against UNSW, 1 against St. George. SD Raiders, Wolves and Blacktown, and I just think back to that win against the SD Raiders. They won 5-1 on the second round of the season. SD did play a large portion of that game with 10 men. And they followed that up here against St. George City. They led 2-0. And they ended up throwing that one away and drawing 2-2. And really, their season has just nosedived since. And might not seem like a lot, but those 2 points there, not getting anything last week. You're talking about 3 points, 4 points. That's the difference between promotion and relegation, or survival and relegation, I should say. And they go long in the direction of Callaghan, who's then launched into the Belmore turf, which I've commentated quite a few games here over the last few years, and I've seen this pitch in varying states. And around the goalposts, it looks like a cow paddock. But I have to say, the grass for Belmore standards looks pretty good. Considering, of course, Canterbury Bulldogs train here, so they share it with a rugby league team. They are prone to chew it up. Hong is going in the direction of Kukuchka. Well, won there by Daniel. Here's Bayless. Blair's had a good first season in the NPL, the American. He wanted it back, but instead the ball's given away and Armanakis pounces on it. And then Jack Armson wins the ball back, and now it's Blair, plays it back to his goalkeeper. Norwich back into the squad today, starting next to last week's match winner, Cameron Windust. I had a chance earlier in the season to speak to the great Peter Flea, and he said that almost felt like a new signing having Cameron Windust out after his injury battles last season. Such a reliable player for them. Championship winner in 2024. Just about 17 minutes gone here. We are goalless. Remember, if it stays this way, if Marconi were to win, Sydney Olympic would be relegated. Which sounds crazy to say, but we've seen big teams get the drop in New South Wales before. This one seems extra wild considering that Olympic were premiers back in 2022 and they give away a foul here. Gives Marconi a chance to get the opening goal from a set piece. They are a handful from set piece situations like this. The boys in Azuri blue. Of course, missing one of those targets today, Tang Kuol, but Don Minarich, no surprises. Makes the trot up as the short kings like myself just hang back. Jesic and Maya stand over this free kick. As the train rolls through here at Belmore, are we about to see the opening goal and another nail in Olympics' coffin? It's Curto who gets it away. Punched away to Bayless, who sends it straight back in the direction of Sekenis, who manages to get a flick on the end of that one, but couldn't steer it. Goal kick. So it remains goalless here. It is goalless at half-time at Adenza Park, and that result would end Marconi's very faint hopes at finishing premiers. Of course, premiership doesn't mean too much in this competition because, of course, we have finals. The Olympic found that out the hard way 4 years ago when they finished premiers, but eventually didn't even make the grand final that year. Blacktown were our eventual champions. I'm a football purist. I do believe the team that finishes first should be called champions, but I understand why we have finals. It's very exciting. Here's Mlinaric. No real clear-cut chances. There was that bouncing ball which fell to Sekenis, but he was unable to bring the ball down. His touch got away from him a little bit, and Curto pounced on it before he could get a shot away. And they're going to get another chance here, Marconi. Another whistle. Seen a couple of them in quick succession, and another chance from a set piece for the Stallions to take the lead. Train rolls through again. Beautiful sight. And is suburban football at its finest. Right on that 30-metre line. If they go for goal, it'll be an absolute rocket. It'll take something like that train that just rolled through. They go for the dink to the back post instead in the direction of Mlinaric. It was on. He had plenty of space. He was only picked up late by Jacob Tresoglovic, but just slightly overhit. For Marconi, if anyone's wondering how they could win the premiership, if my math is correct, so maybe take this with a pinch of salt and do your own research as well, but I believe they would need Apia to lose their remaining 2 games, and they would need Sydney United to not win on the final day, and Marconi, of course, win their 2 remaining games, and I believe, and then if they make up the goal difference as well, Marconi would finish first, but more realistically, they will definitely want to finish in the top 2 and avoid that midweek 3v6 or 4v5 elimination final where they found themselves last season, that very entertaining game at the Palace. They defeated Sydney United on penalties. Sekenis does well to bring that one down, and the shot actually turns into a great switch of play. Ball still in. Maya with a chance to cross, and he does, fletches to the back post, but it's overhit and out for a goal kick. Well, that almost came off for Sekenis. I'm sure he was probably shooting there, but the slice turned into a great switch. Olympic goes short, and Hong plays it long to Kukuchka. Armson does well. May have been fouled after. Noah Moss, our referee, agrees. Adam Bugaria doesn't. Bugaria, of course, started the season playing for Marconi. Spent some time with Perth Glory in the A-League. And you remember him in this competition. He burst on the scene for Western Sydney Wanderers NPL team. Going to be the left footer Franco Maya to take this one. Will it be 3rd time's a charm for Marconi? 3rd set piece like this one. It remains goalless. Here's Maya. There's an option of Bayless to his left. He goes for goal instead, and that awkward little half volley that Philip Curto had to scoop up, and then he gets rid of it quickly. They go in the direction of Nizam, and Bernie just did enough there, sliding, and sent it out for a throw. Nizam tries to turns straight into Armson, and Sekenis ran out of room, and it's a throw for Olympic. Fortnight to go. This is the second last round of the season. Armenakis dragged to the ground illegally by Mlinaric. And former Udinese youth player gets it back underway. Daniel was adamant it took a touch off Kukuchka. Politis. Gives it to Bulgaria. Heads it back to Marconi. Here's Bayless now. Well cut off there by Tresoglovic. Olympic trying to keep it on the floor here and play a little bit of football. Of course, there's still plenty of time. It's quite daunting when you think of the bigger picture, but first things first, they just have to get a goal here and win today, and then hope that the other things work in their favour, but they might go 1-0 down here, and the ball has somehow not gone in. It wouldn't have counted anyway because the flag was up. And another nervy moment there and a warning shot. The warnings are getting louder though. Marconi just starting to knock on the door here. Clark. Seth Clark back at Belmore after a stint at the Central Coast Mariners. Given away by Nizam. The Olympic, their own worst enemy a little bit here. A couple loose passes just allowing Marconi to grow in confidence and start turning the screws. That's Bernie lunging in on Zoricic, and last touch was off Bernie. Darren Bernie and George Daniel both eclipsed 40 plus games last season for Marconi. It's pretty wild when you think, of course, these guys are semi-professional. They all have day jobs. Think of the amount of football that Marconi played last season. Their season ended in the first week of December. And then pre-season started in January, and the season started first week of February. Really, the football hasn't stopped, and that is one of the reasons why we're seeing the gap close between the NPL and the A-League, is that now, particularly these Australian Championship teams like Marconi, they can offer something that is very close to professional football. Essentially, you're playing for a team that's in the Australian Championship. You're playing year-round. Chance for Olympic now to break. Zoricic on the edge of the box, but good recovery there. It was Maya who got back, and beg your pardon, it was Tyron Bernie, and now here is Jesic. Looking up for support. He has Sekenis, and Bayless was making a run on the other side. Maya going to pick out Daniel with his left. He does. Well brought down by the ex-Sydney Olympic man. Goes to the cross in the direction of Sekenis. Strong tackle, a fair one, says our referee Noah Moss. Olympic now looking to break. Armenakis dinks it through here for Kukuchka. Kukuchka has Mlinaric running back, trying to recover, gets around him, but then runs out of room and it's out for a goal kick. But that's better from Sydney Olympic. Tried to walk the tightrope there, Sebastian Kukuchka. Very exciting young winger. Almost single-handedly won them the game here earlier this season against Wollongong. They need some magic like that. So far this game is very delicately poised. Marconi had more of the ball, have looked more likely. created that stonewall chance yet. They may create it now. Here's Mlinaric. Bayless. He's it out wide to Daniel. Maybe some people within NPL circles predicted Marconi a little bit of a drop-off in 2026 because potentially of that very long season and short preseason as a result. But any concerns about an Oz Championship hangover were banished on the opening day of the season when they beat the Italo-Australian rivals Apia 2-1. The score was 2-1, but it wasn't as close as the scoreline suggested. They were dominant in that opening game, and at one stage this season looked like they have their hands on the premiership, but a run of 4 straight defeats pretty much ended that one, though. That month run of defeats was ended last week with a big win against the Sutherland Sharks, who will be joining them in the Australian Championship in a couple months' time. Congratulations to David Perkovic and the Sharks. Fantastic story in Australian football. That is the perfect example of a club that's doing it right. Politis. Tell you what, I feel like there's more trains than usual. It's a Sunday as well. Usually Sunday's a bit of a light transport day, but another train rolls through. Jack Armson ran through like a train there, dispossessing Armanakis, who wasn't happy about it. Mlinaric has bursted forward a couple times, and defender maybe showed why he was a defender with that pass. Fantastic player, Mlinaric, and it just seems whoever plays in that heart of their defence, it's just the next man up mentality. Spoken to many players, and they say attacking players in this competition, and they've said you just hate playing Marconi. You never want to go behind to him. I'm feeling if Sydney Olympic don't get the first goal this afternoon, that could be the beginning of the end. Remember, they need to win today to keep their faint survival hopes alive. It will be a great escape if they were to do it. At the very best, win these 2 games that they have left. George FC lose, and they will play the Northern Tigers, you would think, in that promotion relegation playoff, and they have to make a bit of history in doing so and become the first NPL team to win that promotion relegation playoff. Here's Daniel to take the throw. And then Bernie have been ever present, bombing down those flanks. They go in the direction of Sekenis, and now it's allowed to fall and rattled off the woodwork by Meyer. That would have been sensational. Here he is with the second shot, and he lets out a big roar in frustration. Probably not about that shot, but the one we saw a few seconds before it. That would have been sensational. I think the posts are still shaking from a Meyer missile that almost opened the scoring. Look, Kurto just taking a few extra seconds, maybe just taking the sting out of it a little bit. One bounced off Kuchka's hand, but it hit a body part first. He didn't know too much about it. Here's Daniel. Marconi really starting to turn the screws now. Great ball. Kurto does just enough to push it away to Meyer. Might still be seething about that chance. It might hit the back of the net for Marconi now. Olympic just holding on. They send it away to safety. We've seen history made in New South Wales already this weekend. The Sharks booking their spot in the Australian Championship. Northern Tigers almost surely ensuring that they'll be in that promotion relegation playoff. Are we about to see another piece of history, but for a wrong reason? It's in the Olympics, relegation. About an hour away from being confirmed, unless they can find the win this afternoon. Zoricic entangled up there with Bernie. Mlinaric. There's long. Good spell of possession here for Marconi. Just as I say that, Olympic pounce on the ball, but Marconi win it back, and that's been the story of this first half. Not allowing Olympic to breathe on the ball. And they're starting to apply the pressure now. Cross in, well cut off. Here's Blair. Meyer tries with that left foot once again. Rattled the woodwork a few minutes ago. That's the closest either team have come to opening the scoring. It remains goalless here at Belmore. Olympic send that into a danger zone, and it's cut off by Marconi. Laid off for Bailey. Bayless, I beg your pardon. Daniel, strong header away, and Curto's happy to see that one out for a goal kick. Still goalless at King Tom as they approach the hour mark between Sydney United and Apia. Result stays that way. Apia will be premiers. It takes something pretty incredible to outshine that moment. A club as big as Sydney Olympic, though, might take some of the attention away from Apia's premiership win. For negative reasons, of course. Blair. This ball there to Bayless, playing further forward today. He's Apia's. One of Marconi's missed to fix it. That was a good tackle there by Clark. Moss was perfectly placed. As was I. Had a good angle of it. All ball there from the Kiwi. Thought maybe Noel Moss had the whistle in his mouth, but just had a proper look there. I think he's just shading himself from the sun in his eyes. Perfect. Late winter afternoon here for footballers. We now see the back end of winter and spring's fast approaching. Which also means finals football in the New South Wales NPL just around the corner, fortnight away. Soglovic. They're away, but Marconi cut it off once again. Bayless floats it into the back post. It might fall here for Marconi, and goes away for a corner. Meyer with the chance there. And Sydney Olympic are holding on at the moment. I can hear a few Olympic fans either side of me starting to get agitated. They can sense it. Koto. A sharp save there to just deflect the bouncing ball out for a corner. Marconi have been knocking on the door the last 10-15 minutes. Are they about to barge in? Great ball! Mlinaric's header. It hit the turf first, which took all the juice out of it, but another chance here, and you can hear the shouts every time they win a tackle. Marconi, they are well on top at the moment. Couple come on Olympics that I can hear. Their fans just trying to lift them a little bit. I can feel that their team is on the back foot at the moment. And Zoricic gets a fortuitous bounce. It looked like Marconi were going to cut it off. They go long in the direction of Kukuchka. That's not where he does his best work. You need to get the ball to his feet. But unfortunately, him and that entire Olympic front line have had to feed off scraps the last 10-15 minutes. Let's see if they can do something with the ball here. Switch it out wide in the direction of Zoricic. Gives Bernie something to think about. Both players hit the deck. Still there for Olympic. Little step over and a chance for a cross. Good sharp foot there, and an even better save by Wade. First to cut off the cross, and then a nice save to deny the opener. Best moment of the game for Olympic so far, but here come Marconi. Bayless. Riding the challenge there, James Bayless. Trying to get around Clark, and not for the first time today. The Kiwi lunging and landing on the ball and using his hands, says our referee Noah Moss. And a lovely passage of play by Olympic. Almost saw them get the opener. It was Zach Zoricic who was denied. Closest Olympic have come to getting the opening goal. It's been all Marconi the last 15 minutes, and this is not a good sight for Olympic. Seth Clark has stayed down. It was a great tackle on James Bayless, but then whilst he was on the floor, he landed on the ball with his arm, and referee blew handball. And Seth Clark has stayed down here, and this doesn't look good. In the Olympic have Marcus Fernandez, who's just taken his bib off, and wonder if that's to replace their Kiwi maestro Seth Clark. Made his way back to his feet, but he had to be picked up. Clark was fantastic last season for Olympic. Moved to Central Coast Mariners after the championship, returned mid-season, and makes his way off the field. I think it looks like he may have dislocated his shoulder, maybe, or a collarbone perhaps, but his afternoon is over, and I hope for his sake it's nothing too serious. He's replaced by Marcus Fernandez. Confirmation of that change, forced through injury. Seth Clark is off. After making a sliding tackle on Bayless, landing on his shoulder. And here comes the ensuing free kick. It might be trouble here for Olympic. And it's Marko Jesic who has his head in hands. Looks like it may have taken a deflection, but it was just a miss hit from Marconi's captain. Seth Clark goes straight up the tunnel. He looks in a bad way. I wish him a speedy recovery. Marcus Fernandez is on in his place. Kukuchka battling with Daniel. And he gets the throw. Daniel not happy, throws the ball away in protest. And has just talked himself into the book, the ex-Sydney Olympic defender, and a couple of his old fans letting him know about it as well. Silly stuff there from such a tidy player. Now has a yellow card he needs to navigate for the remainder of this game. Armanakis, if there's someone who can create some magic and just ignite the great escape, it's Panos Armanakis. And Peter Politis knows it. He tells him, I don't want you taking this throw, get in there. Here's Kukuchka battling with Daniel. Kukuchka wins it. He's walking the tightrope at the moment, and it's Zoricic blocked by Bernie and then sent into orbit by Meyer, but brilliantly done there. Danger not over yet for Marconi. Happy to just send that one away. Politis. Lovely moment. Once again. By Kukuchka. Strong tackle. Politis thought he got the ball. Marconi players run in. Lunaric and Bayless swarm Noah Moss. This game just went up a couple degrees. Bit of feeling in this one, as there always is. I remember midweek game a couple years ago between these two teams when Marko Jesic scored absolute screamer of a free kick. That was very feisty. Michael Vakas scored a great goal that day as well. That night, I should say. Big hello to the Belmore Bullet. I'm sure he's watching, as are lots of Sydney Olympic fans. Hoping, praying to the football gods that they can orchestrate the great escape. Last couple of minutes, they've looked better. Kukuchka a couple of times. Walking the tightrope. Almost producing magic. Here he is again. Gets around Manaric and manages to pick out a pass as well. Here's Nizam as well to maintain possession. Here's Armanakis. I say I've been very impressed with this young man, Sebastian Kukuchka. Lovely reverse ball from him, and he wants it back. That's much better, though. It was Marcus Fernandez, the Olympic, now growing into this game, and it's one of their youngsters, one of the rare bright lights this season, Sebastian Kukuchka, who's the orchestrator. Kukuchka made his first grade debut earlier this season against Sydney United. He's club's equal top goal scorer with 4 goals. He's a tie between a few players on 4. One of them is Yuto Fujita, who left midway through the season, so that symbolises their struggles in front of goal. Of course, Fujita moved to Wollongong, has scored another 3 goals. So if you look at stats, it'll say that Olympics' top goal scorer is the Japanese winger with 7, but he scored 4 of those in an Olympic shirt. Loud groans there as Olympic give it away. Chance right before half-time for Sekenis. This would be a cruel blow. Armson looking to barge his way through and almost did. We are into added time here. Marconi have been in control for large portions of it, but the Olympic just with a couple positive signs in the last 5 minutes. Still no reason to panic yet. It is goalless. Need to win today at the minimum. Kukuchka, was he fouled? Yes, he was, says referee Noah Moss. So a chance right before the break for Olympic. We've been on the receiving end of a lot of coach killers and cruel blows this season. Can they dish one out? Manakis will be the one to deliver this free kick. Potentially the last action of the first half. Gets plenty of airtime on it. And Joe Wade, I've used rugby league analogies there, plucked it out of the air like a winger, going up for a Steeden. Jesic pounces on this one, but good recovery. And now they go long and just they're not on the same wavelength there. Zoricic was on his heels. He drew a good save from this man, Zach Zoricic. Kind of like a double save. It was used his foot to diffuse a cross and then got back up, and they've actually still been on the floor. He made a sharp save to deny Zoricic. The closest we came, though, to a goal was a Maya thunderbolt, which rattled the woodwork. This team's coming close. A couple of feisty moments. This man talking his way into the book was one of them. No goals to speak of. This could be the last chance of the first half. Kukuchka's looked fantastic. Manakis to take the throw. 3 minutes of added time. We are into the 3rd minute. In fact, that is that. It remains goalless here at Belmore. Both teams have come close, but it remains Sydney Olympic nil, Marconi nil. A reminder, Sydney Olympic must win this afternoon or they are relegated. Huge 45 minutes coming up on the other side of this halftime break.
Every week, hundreds of thousands of people turn up around football grounds around New South Wales. Parents, kids, refs, coaches and volunteers. Cardiac incidents can happen to anyone at any time on the pitch.
Right now, not every club has a defibrillator.
And the ones that do are not always maintained or ready to use. In a critical moment, with a defib, that could save lives. That's why Football New South Wales, St John Ambulance and Toyota have come together for Every Beat Matters to help clubs around New South Wales to access defibrillators, cover maintenance and build a register so we know exactly where every unit is around the state. All you need to do is buy a ticket through Raffletix. $5 can make a difference. Every ticket goes towards funding defibrillators and maintenance for clubs that need it most. A live fundraising board shows exactly how much is being raised. And every ticket you buy puts you in the draw to win a Toyota Corolla. One ticket, real impact. Help your club be ready when it matters. So buy your ticket today.
Teff was there, but it never quite got to him. Just lifted a little too low for his liking. Back towards the corner kick taker. Dashed onto his left foot. Good ball in. Teff is there. And then the shot from Tatafu is crashed home. What a time for your second goal of the season. With some well above that. Two hands raised. Last time they did that, they led to a goal. Teff is threatening, wins the header. Williams kept it out so far. And then it's bundled home. The set piece. So threatening.
Cunningham is making that run in behind. Can Scutteridge find him? He can. Cunningham looking for someone to cut it back for. It's with McStay. A lovely goal by St George FC. Delivery is on its way from Casella towards the far post. This time it's nodded down and nodded in. And a massive goal for Isaac Cunningham. Lawal gets up for the header, it falls back and it's a good shot and it's gone all the way in. And the Wanderers have a goal back through Bradley Marzal.
Behind Bevan now. Ortiz, can he step inside and shoot? Steps inside, steps outside. Presley Ortiz drives it in low and opens the scoring here at Lambert Park. Plays it forward for Conestable. He's in an absolute acre of space here, Michael Conestable. Everybody is backed off. And he's unleashed Segredo. Segredo has got Ortiz and Jordan. Ball is sprayed in for Presley Ortiz! They would have played in cup runs before. And here is Kuta floating it over the top. It's been left. It's Fong, and Fong dinks the ball in there. 3-0. Here again is Hannigan and Shuriaga. They're at it again. And Rag drives it in low. It's half cleared. It's 3/4 cleared. It's fully cleared. The shot is in for Chianese. They have got themselves back into it.
Burgess trying to turn one around the corner, but it's met by Takami. Now Petratos looking to stretch his legs. He'll have a go as well. Petratos! Oh, my word! Costa Petratos has just about taken the net off with that strike. Couldn't find the feet of Callum Keeley. This time it will, though! Turned home by Kobayashi. Here's Kobayashi, who of course scored the second. Looking to deliver one. It's a teasing delivery for Petratos! 3-0. Corner will be swung in. Near post delivery, flicked header. Petratos, bouncing ball, struck sweetly into the bottom corner. Costa Petratos has his third.
To Armanakis, who broke over to the left. Armanakis, the return ball. Caught in his arm. Promising first touch. Can he free the feet for a strike? And it's tapped in by Callahan. Sydney Olympic take the lead. Veers away from the blue shirts in the Olympic defence. And he'll put it across of his own here. It runs to the back post. Wells steadies, strikes and scores. And Sydney United are level. Tillo. Krislovich alone, hand up top, needs support. Here comes Mason Wells, storming forward Wells. Can he find a shot? It's deflected, it hits the crossbar, and it's knotted in. Sydney United have struck twice in the second half, and Michael Krislovich stoops to the header to make it 2-1.
Outswinger comes in. Header's there, and it's a goal. And Marconi hit the front through Cameron Windust. Rising at the back post.
Ball, lays it back to Fujita, better angle. Might be a little set-piece routine here. And the shot is an absolute screamer from Christian Butkovic. On a couple of occasions, they go long in the direction of Najjar. It falls for Moody Najjar. Instant response by Rockdale. Yes, he can. Tries his best with the back heel. Mashavecchio goes in the direction of Fujita. Rides the challenge here. Yuto Fujita in on goal. He's just holding it up and waiting for support. He gets it in King. He might go himself, and he may have just won the game with a brilliant solo goal. Yuto Fujita may have just ended Wollongong's horror 3 months in. Welcome back. Big 45 minutes coming up. Apologies for the tight start. Got lost. They're just in the aura of the great Greek music that they were playing at half-time, but I have a feeling that if Sydney Olympic don't get a winner in the next 45 minutes, we'll be hearing a very different tune at the full-time whistle. Jesic goes in the direction of Meyer, who was heavily involved. He's under a shot, which rattled the woodwork the closest we came to an opener. Jocker Kewen's come on at half-time for the home team, who already had to make a first-half change. Marcus Fernandez replacing Seth Clark. That's it. Kewen's header there. Good recovery in the ex-Western Sydney Wanderer. He's been thrown on at half-time, replacing Zach Zoricic. Interesting change. Zoricic drew a good save from Wade in that first half and gave them a bit of an outlet on that left-hand side. Kewen, one of many great footballers coming out of Adelaide region. That is a breeding ground of football and footballers, as Politis sees that one out for a goal kick. Spent some time Western Sydney Wanderers, made the move over from Dandy Thunder in Victoria. One of a host of mid-season changes. Really the last roll of the dice for Olympic as they look to save themselves. Most likely is this young man, though, Sebastian Kukuchka, almost the provider of the opening goal. He's looked magic every time he's had the ball at his feet. Cut a bit of a lonely figure up front as they were just lumping balls long in his direction. That's not when he does his best work. Huge shout for a penalty there. Marcus Fernandez, who went down. Amanakis wants it. They go back to Politis. Here is Amanakis. You can hear the groans, I'm sure. Frustration. Each misplaced pass and giveaway as the minutes start to tick away. Now, Marconi with a chance. Good sliding tackle by Hong, who's done really well because slide tackles bounced off Sekenis and gone out for a goal kick. Kodo takes it and goes short. Trosoglovic. Marcus went for the no-look pass in the direction of Callahan. If you're just joining us, mate, you missed the first half. Equation is simple. Sydney Olympic must win. They are 5 points behind St. George FC in 15th place. This is the second last game of the season. So if they were to lose, bottom place gets automatic relegation. Second bottom goes into that promotion relegation playoff with second in League One, which is almost certainly going to be the Northern Tigers after their crazy come-from-behind win against the MacArthur Rams. Rams are up 2-1. 97th minute equaliser from the penalty spot, and then a 99th minute winner for the Tigers. 3 points ahead of Bankstown City, but have a far superior goal difference to the tune of 9 goals. So they've almost certainly wrapped up second place, which does pose the question that has been doing the rounds in the NPL podcast spaces this week on the Champagne Football Pod. Should more teams be automatically promoted? I'm of the opinion, as Sekenis goes down grabbing his leg, I'm of the opinion that should be 2 automatically promoted and dropped. And I like the promotion relegation playoff, but I think the chance of only 1 team getting promoted in a 30-game season is a little bit insane. And take even, for example, Bankstown City. They're going to finish 3rd. That's a great season. What about those teams that finish in 4th, 5th and 6th? Do we do something like they have in the Championship in England? Or do we maybe just extend it slightly? Do bottom 2, top 2 go up and down? 3rd bottom plays 3rd. That's a discussion on the Football New South Wales higher-ups. More pressing question here is, where is Sydney Olympic going to find this goal? They've struggled for him this season. They've had some great goal scorers in the past, most recently great Roy O'Donovan. He's another goal scorer making his way back to his feet. Jamie Sekenis doing a couple of squats, seeing if he can shake it off. By the looks of it, he's got 15 goals this season in the league. He's been goalless in his last 5. Have to go back to a mid-July win over the Western Sydney Wanderers. Last time he found the back of the net. But they needed to pick the goals up, and he's led the way, almost doubling his tally of 8 in the league last season. He's returned to football. Nizam thought he was fouled. Daniel goes in the direction of Yesic as Sekenis is still down in back play and was on his haunches momentarily, back to his feet. Looks to be struggling a little bit. That might be his afternoon over, as Marconi get ready to make a change. It might be for Sekenis. It's Mate Busek getting ready to come on in jersey number 11. I wonder if Mate, I believe, is of Czech descent. I wonder if Czechs are as superstitious as Italians, because he changed numbers this season. He got a very deserved numbered upgrade to the number 11, but he hasn't scored a league goal this season, and if he was Italian, he'd be blaming the number for sure. So he's going to replace their top goal scorer. It's Sekenis off, and his father Peter will be hoping that it's nothing too serious, with finals potentially even less than a fortnight away. If they were to finish outside the top 2, those elimination finals are played midweek. So quick turnaround just a few days after the end of the season. Confirmation of that change. Busek on. Sekenis off. He's a Kewen. So both teams forced into an injury change. Seth Clark coming on off in the first half, I beg your pardon, for Marcus Fernandez, and goalless here at Belmore. If it stays this way, Sydney Olympic will be that team automatically relegated to League One. A Kewen there. It was high and it didn't look the best. Card there for the former Western Sydney Wanderer, who came on at half-time. There was a noticeable shift at about the half an hour mark of this game where the intensity really went up. It's getting a bit feisty, and Marconi not happy with Sydney Olympics number 6, who earns himself a spot in Noah Moss's book. Maya back to his feet. And he will take this free kick. Going to be his left foot curling it towards Philip Curto's goal. Maya, low cross, well dealt with, and Fernandez is happy to just send that one away in the direction of Kukuchka. It's Blair who got there first, and Olympic with a chance to get out of their own half with a throw. Goalless here as we approach the hour mark. Goalless at King Tom. They're in injury time. Apia will be our premiers, wrapping it up with a game in hand. If that result stays that way and Sydney United can't find the winner, well won there. And a chance now for Marconi to break. They go long and Curto's off his line and is never under any real danger. Confirmation Apia have wrapped up their premiership, last season's champions. Can now add a premiership to their growing trophy cabinet and keeping Franco Parisi's amazing record intact of winning a trophy in every season since taking over as Apia manager in 2023. Champion in 23, Waratah Cup in 24, championship last season. He can now add a premiership to his growing resume as a manager. Of course, he was an incredible player. That result, though, leaves the door open for Marconi to jump into the top two with a win here. United on 61 points. Marconi on 59, if you have a live ladder in front of you. Pass intended for Armanakis, but cut off. The perfect time there by Maya. Blair rides the challenge of Bulgaria, switches it out the other side. Nice dancing feet there, and cross in the direction of Busek. There's the confirmation on the PA of that result at Adenza Park. Apia are premiers. Maya, of course, still have the champion to be crowned in a finals series. Sydney Olympic fell victim to that 4 years ago, and it's been a steady decline since then. They were premiers in 22, didn't reach the grand final that year, haven't made the finals since. Of course, in 23 it was first past the post, which the Sydney Olympic came a year too late. But in 24 and 25, missed the top six on both occasions. And now plunged all the way to, unless they can find a winner here, and even if they do find the winner here, could be relegation to League One. Armanakis with a little bit of room. Lovely dinked ball over the top, but just slightly too much on that one for the ex-Spirit youngster Khan Nizam. Joel Wade really just take the sting off that one a little bit. Looked like he was going to show off his arm, but goes the conventional long boot as well, which almost goes 50 metres. Can measure out thanks to the rugby league line still being very visible. Haven't faded at all, actually. Here's Daniel. Bayless. Looping ball for Armson. Would love a goal against his former club, Jack Armson. Returned to his goal-scoring best that we saw at Apia. Double-digit goals in their championship winning season and the following season in 24 before moving to Sydney Olympic. He fell out of favour in the Oz Championship, now back to his best. Mate Busek on the end of this bouncing ball, and the flag was up anyway. He was trying to cut off that header back. That was the move of the veteran there. Marko Jesic, roofer by trade. Tell you what, runs around like he's in his early 20s though. Here comes Kukuchka, Sebastian Kukuchka, and getting his foot in at the nick of time there was Anton Mlinaric, who looked like he may have been beaten for pace there by Kukuchka, who looks the most likely for Olympic. Just a little bit under half an hour of the 90 to go. It remains goalless. Looping corner, it's a good one. Was that last touch off Olympic? Yes, it was. Another wild story developing is Wollongong, unless Western Sydney can pull off an Istanbul-esque comeback. Wollongong 3-0 up against Western Sydney. And despite going 3 months, 11 games without a win, a run that was ended last week with a goal from a former Sydney Olympic player, Yuto Fujita, you're a chance at finals. Shows you how close this competition is, particularly in that hunt for finals. The pack, though, has broken away at the top, and that's Apia United and Marconi. Apia wrapping up the premiership with a 0-0 draw this afternoon against United. Marconi, though, have the chance to jump into the top 2 as we approach the last game of the season. But the biggest storyline is Sydney Olympic must find a winner. Otherwise, they are relegated. And that's thanks to St George FC pulling off back-to-back wins, something Olympic haven't tasted all season. And they almost got the taste of the opening goal there. That was better. Down that right-hand side once again. Just couldn't find someone on the end of that cross. That's where they've looked the most likely. Down that right-hand side. Yeah, triple change here for Marconi. It's Ahmed Allahu coming on, as is number 17, Sunday Yona. And a return for Noah Anderson as well. Allahu, Anderson and Yona on. Jesic and Bayless off for Marconi. Fourth official and his board's just gone walkabouts here, so I'm trying to make out the changes with my eyes, which need glasses. PA's coming in to save me here. Franco Myers, the third of those changes. Yona, Allahu and Anderson on. Placing Bayless and Franco Meyer. Anderson straight into the action, pressing. Here comes Bernie. Tries to dink it in the direction of Yona. Bit of space on this left-hand side for Armanakis on his left foot. Gets a first-time crossing, just couldn't get anyone on the end of that one. It was lovely work there once again by Kukuchka, who's like he's playing a little bit more centrally, trying to spark something, get a goal for his team. The minutes are starting to tick away, and what would normally be a good result, a point against a Marconi team that's going for the championship, isn't good enough. Not this afternoon. They need all 3 points. And they need a win out. They need win-win. And then hope football gods can do them a favour and George FC lose on that final day, where they will play Sydney United, who, despite missing out on the premiership, still have that top two to play for. Marconi tried to get it going, but referee Noah Moss, you can make out by his hand gestures there, telling Windus that the ball was still moving. Game on the last day, George FC travel to Sydney United. It's a very tough final day for them. If they can get a winner, the Great Escape is on. And Olympic have been a little bit of a bogey team for Marconi in the past. Of course, knocked them out of the Australia Cup this season, en route to the round of 32 before they were eventually eliminated by Brisbane Roar. Bouncing ball is an awkward one, and Olympic just try and send that one away. Bulgaria, Amanakis, lovely work there. Bit of space on this right-hand side for Kukuchka. Blair getting back there in support, as he did Yona, but it's the American sliding. Still there. And then Manaric, beg your pardon, Windus just sends that one away. Players stayed down in back play for Olympic. They've already lost Clark to an injury.
Want a fixed rate?
Player down in back play. Both these teams already have lost players through injury. Clark came off in the first half for Olympic. So Kennis came off early in the second for Marconi, and there's a bit of activity on that Olympic bench. Look like they're getting ready to make another change. It's Kukuchka who's down. This would be a big blow because he's looked, they're most likely the most threatening and the type of player that can create something out of nothing. It's Marko Arambasic getting ready to come on. Fair play here as Large boots the ball to Kurto, gets it back in play straight away. Tresoglovic. Nizam has been everywhere across that front line. He's played centrally. He's out on the left-hand side now. He tried to thread it through for Anderson. Kewen cuts it off. Kukuchka, lovely back heel. That's that X factor that I was talking about, on display, on cue. Basic still warming up. I wonder if that's for Kukuchka or maybe it's someone else. Fernandez. Well, one there by Yona. One straight back by Politis. They go for that first time cross to the back post in the direction of Nizam, who makes contact on it. It was a great ball. Took Bernie out of it. He was a full stretch but could only watch. Just an awkward one for Nizam to generate any real power. Anderson. Like a bit of a miss kick. Might play out perfectly here though. He's Busek in those fluorescent boots. Yet to score. Can he be the provider though? Goes for his opposite winger, Yona. Just a little bit too high for Sunday Yona, and Politis sees it out. Minutes are starting to tick away. We are into the last 20. And a couple decent stoppages because of injury, so we'll probably get a good chunk of added time, but we are really approaching nervy territories here because Sydney Olympic are potentially 20 minutes plus stoppages away from relegation. Misplaced pass there, but are unable to control it and goes to Kurto, of course. These two teams, foundation members of the Oz Championship, will have the very weird, strange scenes of Sydney Olympic fresh off relegation playing in that competition. Of course, their campaign last season was a great what if. They had the competition's top goal scorer, Ali Ogla. They had great moments, but really it was performances here at Belmore and, beg your pardon, Cogra as well that really ended their chances. It was so close yet so far. They were great in both their meetings against South Melbourne. Threw away a game against Moreton City and a loss at home to Broadmeadow Magic. That really was the killer, and it's all them miss out on the knockout stages. That's really been the story of Olympic since winning the premiership. When they're good, they're great. But when they're bad, they leave you scratching their head. They were pushing for finals last season. Some very impressive home victories. Misplaced pass there, pounced on by Manaric, who's now got the armband in place of Marko Jesic, who made way. It's one of triple change. But going back to last season, they were pushing for finals, big wins. I remember them dismantling Sydney United, a game I called at Cogra. But then when it looked like they may surge into the top six, a loss here to Mount Druitt, who ended up getting relegated. It's defeats like that that ended up ending their finals hopes, and he brought that type of form into the Australian Championship, but plunged to unimaginable lows this season. Unless they can pull it out of the fire. Manakis was in two minds to shoot or pass there. He ends up going for the pass. It's cut off. And now Marconi with a chance to break. Anderson. I mentioned that the goals have been hard to come by for Olympic. For Marconi. Goals back up, but their two main goal-scoring threats are off. Damien Sekenis forced off through injury. Hope for his sake nothing too serious, with finals just around the corner, and Marko Jesic making way as well. Was here for Callahan. Got the goal last week in what ended up being a losing effort, a game where they had a host of chances. It's just been, when you are battling relegation, that's the story of your season. Unless he can start the great escape. Windust there to cut off the cross. Header straight in the direction of Anderson, who's been busy since coming on. And Hong bundled Busek to the ground. Mate Busek adamant he was fouled. Kukuchka weaving and threading the needle here for Nizam. Bernie getting back there. Nizam tried to be a little bit too cute then. As did Elahu there, trying to play it off his chest. This game is just begging for one of these teams to claim it. It hangs delicately. Marconi need this one to keep their top two hopes alive in the Olympic, fighting for their lives. Kukuchka, he's looked the most likely. Sebastian Kukuchka. Olympic need a goal. They're going to bring on their number 9, Marko Arambasic. And they're taking off Sebastian Kukuchka, who comes off on that far touchline and falls down straight away. So I wonder if maybe that injury that forced a decent stoppage about 5-10 minutes ago has forced him off, which is a tough blow for Sydney Olympic, because Kukuchka has been their best attacking outlet. But if there's a man who can score a goal, it's Marko Arambasic. They will not care where it comes from. It can come from Philip Curto for all they care. They just need a goal. Not going to get it here, though, because Marconi, now with a move down this left-hand side through Yona, who'll do well to keep it in. Next best option was a corner, and it's a goal kick. Curto pushes everyone forward, goes in the direction of Arambasic. One thing he is a target. I'd be surprised if we see them go in the aerial route as the minutes tick away here. Less than 15 minutes to go. The Olympic, team that's only tasted victory 6 times this season, has conceded a whopping 60 goals. That ball's allowed to bounce. Busek was there, lurking. And it's Fernandez. His options right and left. Holds the ball up. Akuan. Manakis lays it off for Nizam. Goes in the direction of Arambasic and picked off by Mlinaric. Wind dust. It might take a moment of magic to unlock this game. A long shot, a set piece, something. Maybe something special, because Marconi centre-backs have been pretty comfortable this afternoon. Haven't been tested too much. Although right on cue here is Arambasic. Marko Arambasic drags it agonisingly wide. Centimetres away from that precious goal that they need to keep their survival hopes alive. I said that their centre-backs haven't been tested too much, Marconi's, and right on cue, they were tested there. Wind dust was coming across, but could only watch as Arambasic dragged the shot past Wade, but ultimately wide of that back post. Here's Yona. And there Yona is around the sliding Politis and picks out Busek, who wins a Marconi corner. Draw doesn't favour either of these teams. Marconi came into this afternoon with very, very minuscule chances at winning the championship. They were ended by Apia's draw against Sydney United, but they can jump into the top 2 with a win this afternoon. You know the equation for Olympic. Marconi go in search of that opening goal. It's Busek's corner. Is a deep one. Headed back across goal. Curto does enough to just send that one away. Looping corner, and the second ball almost leading to the opening goal. Yona has given them something different since coming on. Arambasic. Arambasic does really well to hold the ball up and ride the challenge now of Mlinaric. Plays it out wide. There's an option here. Nizam's in the box. Arambasic is making his way to the box. Well won there by Daniel to dispossess Callahan and then win the foul. That is brilliant from George Daniel. Ten minutes of the 90 to go. 10 minutes for Olympic to keep their hopes of survival alive. 10 minutes for Marconi to get a winner, which would see them leapfrog Sydney United into second place. We're approaching kitchen sink here time for the home team. Yona, a goal would almost certainly seal their fate. Marconi goal, that is, of course. We get an Olympic gold, and that relegation battle will go to the final day, which is what the neutrals want. Of course, everyone from Barton Park won't want that. They'll want that final game to be a chance to rest players ahead of that promotion relegation playoff against the Tigers. Hernandez goes in the direction of Nizam. Bernie was at full stretch there to cut it off. Armanakis, Arambasic, tangled up there. Still Marko Arambasic, and Windass that full stretch there. He had to be perfect because his foot was at that awkward high range, but in clean contact with the ball. There's that last touch off. It's a Marconi one. Acuin to take the throw. Olympic getting ready to make another change. It really is now or never. Arambasic doesn't stop that one from going out. It's Daniel Wong getting ready to come on for the home team. Has 5 goals in all competitions this season. 3 in the league and 2 in the cup. Adam Bulgaria comes off. Wong on for Bulgaria. He made a run there. He just needed the pass off Arambasic. He might get it now. Cut off by Bernie. Frustration really evident here for Olympic. You can see the arms going in the air. Bernie's made a great run here. Busek's got Yona in support. Sunday Yona, this could seal it. It's Busek, blocked and then saved and somehow not in. Sydney Olympic hang on just. And Bernie probably couldn't believe how much time and space he had, and he picked the right option. Found Busek, who found Yona. And Olympic are hanging on, but it might be ended here. Is that the goal that relegates Sydney Olympic and sees Marconi go into the top 2? It's Ahmed Elahu. That may be the goal that ends Sydney Olympic season and sees them drop down to League One. Incredible storyline brewing here. The 2022 premiers are on the verge. Ahmed El Halou may have just sealed Sydney Olympics' fate. A couple Olympic fans have seen enough. They're leaving, and this game really has kind of just been a story of their season. Good in small patches, but nothing sustained. Haven't really looked like scoring on too many occasions. Haven't looked like a team that's fighting for their lives, and maybe you can put that down to lack of chemistry. Lots of new signings, particularly mid-season signings. And Ahmed El Halou's goal there may have just sealed their fate. Lest they can pull it out of the fire. Looped into the back post. It was the great escape now. I can't even think of a metaphor that would describe if they were to survive now. Armanakis. Wade, punch away. As far as Arambashic does well to just send it back in. This great football club, Pan-Hellenic Soccer Club, founded in 1957 by Greek migrants. They've housed some of our most famous Socceroos, foreign footballers as well. Ian Rush, Roy O'Donovan more recently, Alex Sanchez, Fabio Ferreira. Look like you're going to see the fate of other great clubs from New South Wales, Bonnyrigg, Parramatta. And unless they can find 2 goals here, they will be relegated. Lovely moment for the youngster there, Ahmed El Halou, to say Peter Sekenis, who I wonder what's going through his head. Last season with Marconi, him and his assistant Peter Flea, after over 300 games in charge, announced this season will be their last. He's a queuing. Well closed down once again. I just wonder what's going through there. It's like seeing a club, of course they're Marconi 100%, but it must be very strange seeing a team where they tasted such amazing success plunge to lows like this. Remember, Seka and Flea were at the helm in 2011. I mentioned it pre-game, but winning a grand final here against Sydney United in front of over 10,000 people, that seems like multiple lifetimes ago. For the 3-time winners of this competition, 2-time NSL champions, they are on their way down, and this could be the final nail in the coffin. Yona holds it up. He's been good since coming on. Unable to get his shot away, though, because it was blocked. Olympic really are on life support here. They go in the direction of Arambasic, who almost volleyball spikes it. Maybe out of frustration more than hope. At half-time, we heard the beautiful sounds of Greek music. I have a feeling we get the not-so-pleasant sound of the Boo Birds. Unless Sydney Olympic can find 2 goals. And even if they were to do that and win this game, they still need a lot of other things to go their way. First things first, they need a goal. Wade. Decent 60 metres on the fly there, that goal kick. And Olympic just haven't been able to really get sustained possession and mount any type of sustained period of attack in this game. Anderson is fouled now. The ball is at the polar opposite end of the field that Olympic wanted at. Stables boys are very happy. They're waving scarves and flags. They'll be particularly happy because if this result stays this way, they leapfrog Sydney United and will go into the final game of the season equal with them on 61 points, but with a superior goal difference. So finishing in the top 2 is key because those elimination finals games are played midweek. Brutal having to back up, and we saw it last season with Marconi. Went to penalties in that. Decent effort, and all Curto could do is tip it over the bar. Horrible position here for Olympic as the 4th official gets the board ready. It looks like it's going to be 5 minutes. Ball's at the wrong end of the field. They're on the wrong end of the scoreboard. And they're going to find themselves at an irreversible wrong end of the ladder. 5 minutes of added time. They left it late here. They pulled off a late comeback against UNSW. But I have a feeling that this is going to be too tall a task. They need 2 goals in 5 minutes. Hey, crazier things have happened. We saw it in the Tigers game. 97th and 99th minute goals. I'll tell you what, the changes that Peter Sekenis have made have really changed this game. There was a period before half-time where Olympic looked like they were building, but just as has been a story of their season, not enough goals. Momentary lapses have cost them. Happened last week. It's happened. El Halou's goal. Lovely ball there. And this would end it. It's the goal scorer. El Halou does well. The youngster there with the head of a veteran just wins the corner. And they'll be in no rush to take this. A couple of Sydney Olympic fans have already made their way to the exit. It's a sad sight, you have to say. Of course, as a commentator, you always try and remain impartial, but as a fan of Australian football, you never want to see big clubs, such great history, such a great honour roll of footballers produced, just great fans, just great culture, get relegated. But looks like that's going to be the case for Olympic. Now or never time. Here comes Curto. Amanakis has had his moments, like he has really since joining mid-season, but it's going to be the story of their season. Those signings, those moments, it's all just been too little, too late. You only win 6 games. You fail to win back-to-back games in the competition when you concede now the 61st goal of the season. That usually only leads to one thing, and that is relegation. Everyone's up there except Amanakis and Curto. They have a pop from distance. El Halou sends that one into orbit, gives Curto something to think about. And then there's getting back there. Looked like maybe Yona was in on goal, but he had the tough task of trying to bring that one down. Adam Basic, you just wonder that chance which he almost created out of nothing. Couple centimetres the other side of the back post, and this is a different game, but that's been the story of their season. Now they have a chance to well and truly end it. Anderson. Noah Anderson. All Curto could do was watch as that doesn't even trickle out for a goal kick. Goes for a throw, which Nizam is sprinting to take, but it will most likely be too little too late. Because Olympic need 2 goals. George FC looked like they were going to be destined for relegation, but they've kept their season alive with back-to-back wins, and it looks like they'll be the team representing the New South Wales NPL in the promotion relegation playoff. Marconi, understandably, in no rush to take this throw. Olympic need to bring this one down. Haven't been able to. Have to go the long way and get 2 goals. Marconi, they're at home for their final game of the season against Spirit. It will be all to play for them. Looking to sneak, well, shall I say, they sneak into it because they're on the outside looking in at the start of this round, but they'll go into that final game in 6th position. That's a foul, and that could be that. Added motivation for Marconi next week is that with this result, it means that George FC will have no reason to play all their starters in their final game, and that's against Sydney United. It's over. Sydney Olympic are relegated. The premiers of 2022, champions in 18 and 11, two-time champions of the NSL, the home to many famous Australian footballers. A sad day and a harsh reminder that history and silverware doesn't make you immune from relegation. Marconi leapfrog Sydney United. They will go into the final round in second position. Cheers can probably be heard from Barton Park because it means that St George FC can rest players for their final game against Sydney United. But a dark day, a sad day for this great Australian football club. Sydney Olympic are relegated to League One. We've seen big clubs relegated, not just in New South Wales. Bonnyrigg dropped to League Two. It's where Parramatta find themselves as well. Melbourne Knights over in Victoria, but Olympic and their fans will be hoping that they can jump straight back up, which is what happened to Marconi when they were dropped. In Peter Sekenis' first season in charge of Marconi, he won promotion with them. Now in his final season, they are one of the contenders to win it all. But the big storyline, not just in this match, but in the entire New South Wales NPL, is that Sydney Olympic are relegated. Final score at Belmore, Marconi 1, Sydney Olympic 0.